this HFS Videocast. I'm Mark Reed-Edwards, VP of Digital Marketing at HFS. Today, we talk with two of the analysts behind the HFS OneOffice Services Top 10 on People and Process Change, which was recently released. Joining me are Saurabh Gupta, President, Research and Advisory Services, and Sarah Little, Practice Leader. Saurabh and Sarah, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Great to have you here. So, Saurabh, can you tell me about people and process change capabilities and why they're so important today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mark, if you think of the oldest competency framework that we were taught in schools, that was the people, process, technology framework, right? And remember, there were the three circles that are almost like a Venn diagram: people, process, technology, that was intersecting. And if you think back carefully, those were meant to be equal circles, right? And what has happened, especially over the last decade or so, is that the technology bubble has expanded, right? And everybody keeps talking about digital, and the technology narrative has really overtaken our lives. And we've somehow forgotten those people and process parts of that very important Venn diagram. So in a way, I think this research was to bring back that equilibrium to that people, process, technology framework. And I think because you can throw as much money and time and effort at technologies, but if you don't solve for the talent equation, and if you don't solve for the process debt that just consumed us in every Global 2000 enterprise, we can't really make meaningful impact. And that's why we really did this entire research study.
Yeah, so no people left behind, right? That's kind of what we're trying to say here, right? So what's at the core of this report on people and process change, Saurabh?
Well, the core is, what are some of the leading service providers doing in terms of people and process change, right? In terms of, onshore, nearshore, offshore mix, work from home mix, right? Now, post the pandemic. What are they doing with skill sets? Not just the hard skills, but more importantly, the so-called soft skills, right? Of digital fluency, social interaction, social influence, interaction, communications. Where are they spending their training dollars, right? What are they doing in terms of developing an agile, trained workforce? What are they doing in terms of Lean Six Sigma, design thinking? So I think those were some of the questions that we were asking on the people dimension. On a process dimension, we were really looking forward to, are they actually embedding change management within the service offering, or is change management still a line item on the invoice, right? That somebody can choose to ignore. Do they have real change management capabilities? Do they have process frameworks to actually deliver on the transformational promises that we've made? So it sounds a little bit of an esoteric topic, but if you actually read the report, you'll find that it's filled with data, right? It's a very, very data-rich report. Full of metrics, and as an analyst geek, it was a lot of fun to work through this topic.
It mounds of data. When I talk to people about how we put our top 10s together, it's astounding the volumes of data that they all go through. So, Sarah, can you were down in the weeds on this, right? So can you tell me what you saw in the providers you studied, and also, what are enterprises looking for when they evaluate these providers?
The one interesting component to this study versus the other two, this is part of the OneOffice Top 10 series, and this is the third in that series. We really actually were looking at the internal capabilities of providers for the majority of the studies. So we were, I think, a lot in these areas. Clients really want to know that they're providers client zero, that they are enabling their entire organization, across the board with these capabilities. So I'd say that was at the forefront of the study. Would you like me to go to any of the results? The results were pretty exciting, or were we?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about the top providers. So let's launch right into that. Let's talk about the results.
So what I think is interesting, and a vision that I had in my head when these results kind of came to the forefront, which is Accenture swept the innovation category. And I think that when you look at a company like Accenture, they're 530,000 plus people, and to lead, to lead across the entire innovation category, you just really have to think about how, they can't operate like a Titanic, they can't steer a ship like that. So they really have to be immensely dynamic as an organization. Part of that is enabling your people and your processes. So I thought that was an interesting component there, and very much kudos, especially with their size. IBM placed number 2 in the overall report, and they placed number 1 in OneOffice alignment, which is aligning to HFS view of digital transformation in action. And, IBM's pretty interesting because when you look at them as an organization, they've undertaken 5 transformations in the last 50 years. So they really live out this people process change capability from the standpoint of being client zero. So I do think that really reflected their history, honestly. And I'll take one more minute to touch on TCS. So TCS came in as number 3 overall, and they placed number 1 in overall execution. And they really are kind of known as an execution powerhouse. They were recognized by client references, for notable strength in execution and delivery. And then, of course, really understanding that problem statement and solving for them. So that was, I thought that really reflected that internal state going from the inside out. So those just a few comments on the top 3.
And so as an enterprise, looking for these capabilities, what is it an enterprise values most when they're going to IBM or Accenture or TCS or any of these? What are they really looking for?
Maybe I'll go first and then Sarah jump in. I think obviously we are in a people business, Mark. So every enterprise is looking at the quality of the talent, right? And especially right now amidst the Great Resignation, right? It's hugely important, and every enterprise is looking at how do you source talent, how do you train them, how do you develop them, what is your span of control. Those are extremely important factors in making any decision, because ultimately for any services engagement you're dealing with people all the time, right? So I've seen in our advisory engagements, I've seen so many clients, ask specifically the service provider to bring the actual delivery team, right, to the table, not just the salespeople, because ultimately that's what tilts the favor in one service provider or the other. So I think talent and people have always been something that enterprises have been looking for. But I do think that enterprises can actually raise their game in pushing the service providers a little bit further, because I think in today's world, I think enterprises should be mandating diversity in their teams, right? It shouldn't be an option, it should be a mandate. And I think that will, if enterprises start doing that, that will see us moving the needle much faster. Enterprises should be pushing on sustainability, right? Things like ESG, I think those things are no longer just corporate social responsibility, those should be mandated. And I think if the clients can actually take lead on that, I think that will push service providers to innovate even further. And I think even change management, right? I think enterprises, to be honest, are the first ones to actually look at change management as a line item on the invoice. I think they need to look at how are service providers embedding change management in their overall solution, because I don't see how you can buy change management, right? I think it has to be embedded in it. So I think enterprises look for a lot of things, but I think they can look for some more, is how I would characterize it. Sarah, anything to add?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with those sentiments, certainly. And then even just on the diversity point, I think, from our perspective too, this was a component of our scoring, and that helps us kind of push that forward as well. We included diversity metrics in this report, both in the execution and the innovation categories. In addition to quantitative data, we did make qualitative assessments on the ability for providers to articulate clear measurement of diversity goals, ensuring there's a diverse slate of candidates in the hiring process, even aligning executive incentives to the organization's people strategies. So this is something we're also trying to push in that way as well. But yeah, as far as what clients are looking for their providers for, I certainly agree with Saurabh's comments as well.
Well, and this really is where the rubber meets the road for all organizations, right? It's about your people and the processes that you have in place. It's how organizations move ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's the most boring topic and it's the most interesting topic at the same time.
Well, for a boring topic, I thought this was a great discussion, Saurabh and Sara. I really appreciate you joining me. You can read this top 10 at hfsresearch.com, along with all of our research and a growing library of videocasts just like this one. We'll see you on the next HFS Videocast.